In the last 2 legislative weeks of our calendar for the calendar year of 2024, we have reached a tragic and telling week in political American history. The legislative week started with the former President of the United States and current Republican nominee for president continuing to demonize Haitian immigrants who came to this country legally by characterizing them as dogs eating vermin. Over and over again, Donald Trump has been told that nobody in Springfield, Ohio, are eating pets or cannibalizing geese. The Republican governor of Ohio and the Republican mayor of Springfield have both gone on record to say that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are saying outright and absolute lies. And yet the former president continues to traffic falsehoods and outright racism. Nobody in this country believes that if the immigrants in Springfield, Ohio were white, the leaders of that city would need to close down public schools and cancel public events because of the threats that now blanket the city and its children. What has happened in Ohio is shameful and disgraceful. And now we're talking about Congressman Higgins out of Florida, out of Louisiana, saying that the Haitians should go back home. These are Americans that are here to work and to live out the American dream. These people came to this country legally because they were seeking stability for their lives, wanting to be productive as God's children and human beings. These are people who get up early and work hard all day and just want to come home to their families without needing to look over their shoulders. They've gone through earthquakes, they've gone through coups, and now they're facing hunger. I rise today because somebody needs to stand up, somebody needs to stand with, somebody needs to stand beside the Haitian community. The nation of Haiti may be going through difficult times, but it didn't get there on its own. You remember American history that was taught in 1825? Haiti, in order to become recognized as an independent country by its foreigner slave colonizer, had to pay reparations back to those that enslaved them for 122 years with American enforcement against them. Haiti's not broke. Haiti has been robbed, and the world knows it. We're coming up on the 200th anniversary of Haiti after 1825, like Project 2025. It's the same chord, it's the same rhythm, and it's still racist. But let us not forget that Haiti was the first place in the Western Hemisphere where enslaved Africans threw off the shackles of oppression and proudly established their freedom without the support of the so-called civilized world. When the Haitian Revolution happened, Haiti was more than a democracy was at the time. The city of Chicago was founded by Haitian American and then run out of Illinois and buried in Missouri. And I rise today to condemn absolutely the racist and anti-Black rhetoric that is being used to demean the character and humanity of the Haitian people. Donald Trump is insulting, and his offensive remarks directed at the Haitian community show a callous and absolute disregard for the well-being of people who are economically reviving a small town city in America. Think about why he's using Springfield, Ohio. There's a Springfield town in 32 states. Springfield is really the modern day language of what used to be what's happening in Peoria, Illinois. So there's a Springfield everywhere. This is a town in Springfield that had a wave of Irish immigrants, then German immigrants, and now there's a wave of Haitian immigrants. But he's now using this racially toned rhetoric, very sophisticated. But this is who Donald Trump is, this is who he has been, and this is who he will be. And I'm just wondering, when will my colleagues on the other side, men and women of great valor and character and courage, stand up and tell Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance what they're doing is wrong? How can my Republican colleagues be silent when not only did Donald J. Trump demonize Haitians, but he also went so far as to claim that if he loses the election, it will be because of the Jewish American community. Listen carefully. Donald Trump openly and publicly attempted to shift blame on the Jewish people for his potential loss in November. And anybody who knows anything about anti-Semitism knows that to do such a thing is an anti-Semitic trope. the former president somehow believes that whatever positive things he has done for the nation of Israel translates into the Jewish community being beholden to him as if they are not politically astute enough to vote in their own interests. The very idea that Donald Trump would grotesquely try to blackmail Jewish Americans into voting for him while blaming them for the ineptitudes of his campaign and his character proves that he is a bigot and someone absolutely willing to traffic in the same kind of anti-Semitic thinking that forced millions of Jewish citizens to have to flee Europe in the 1930s and the 40s. He said this about Africans, calling their countries S-holes. He said this about those that have coming from South America. He said this about the Haitians. He has said this about the Jews. He is otherizing our population. But what Donald J. Trump needs to know is that this is the kind of reckless and obsessive finagling that will not be successful because Jewish Americans are not political pawns, Haitians are not political pawns, and will not be manipulated by a convicted felon who happens to be running for the presidency so that he can stay out of jail. This is what happened this week. And still most of my Republican colleagues on the other side of the aisle that are decent and upright and good people have remained silent. Sometimes silence is violence. You give these hateful thoughts permission to grow. There were no grand speeches denouncing the anti-Semitic rhetoric from the Republican nominee for the presidency. There were no opinion pieces in the Wall Street Journal delivered by the Republican leadership of the House of Representatives, chiding the former president and reminding all Americans that we are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the most part, my friends on the other side of the aisle have said absolutely nothing. And this is interesting because you can't tell me that you support Israel when the Jews in America are under attack and verbally assaulted by one of your fellow Republicans. In fact, the chief Republican. You have absolutely nothing to say, my colleagues, and I implore you, I beseech you, I beg you, stand up and show me your good character. If you're going to stand up for Jewish people, if you're going to stand against anti-Semitism, if you're going to stand against anti-racism, if you're going to stand against anti-Islamophobia, then stand up for everybody wherever they are in the world, especially the ones that live in the country you are also happening to be living in. Silence is not how we should respond to anti-Semitism, anti-Islamophobia, or to anti-racism. It reminds me of a quote by Toni Morrison, which says, "Why is it that cruelty uses such a vivid language while goodness bites its tongue?" I'm also remembered of the words of Reverend Martin Luther King. He says, at the end of the day, it's not the words of your enemies that hurts, it's the silence of your friends. And I wish I could say that about the inability of those who call themselves great people that refuse to speak out, just as a phenomenon of the Republicans in this body have not done so. But once again, it was revealed this week that the Republican candidate to be the governor of the state of North Carolina formally identified himself as a black Nazi. A black Nazi. We have to be outraged and speak against this. This is what he said about himself. This is how he identified himself on a public website. But in spite of calling himself a black Nazi, the North Carolina Republican Party still supports this man to be the governor of the state of North Carolina. Maybe it's just me, or maybe you would be thinking the same thing. But anyone that identifies themselves as a Nazi might be the bridge too far for anybody in the Republican Party. And yet there has been silence. This man has been a ventriloquist of a racist himself. The leading nominee, Mr. Robinson, in the state of North Carolina, and President Trump and J.D. Vance say nothing. But obviously there are no boundaries for Project 2025. Republicans who want to put a man found liable for sexual assault back in the Oval Office, he's the architect in part of Project 2025, and who yesterday told women that they should vote for him because only he can protect them. Project 2025. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark, as they say. I call on my colleagues of both sides of the aisle to denounce the anti-black racism being directed towards Haitian immigrants, and I also denounce anti-Semitism in all of its various forms. I challenge my colleagues to be consistent with their courage. I challenge every member of this body to call a lie, to name racism for what it is, to reject using Jewish people as a scapegoat for anything. We are now entering the last 40 days, and the true character is coming out. Everyone is showing their hands. I'm asking you to remember that we govern by the consent of the governed and not the other way around. Stand up for what is right. Remember what your faith teaches you, because somewhere I read, what you have done to the least of these, you have also done unto me.